Hey everybody, let's build something today. I'm going to show you guys how I build my rubber mulch shop box. I'll give you dimensions on all the pieces of wood and everything like that. Basically what you're going to need is a bag of rubber mulch, a couple of pieces of plywood. You go to one of the big box, hardware stores like Home Depot, Lowe's. Look by the saw in the lumber department because a lot of times they'll have cutoffs. In fact, that's where I got these two pieces of wood. They were free because they were cutoffs. So they just kind of have to throw them out eventually. I grabbed them up and it's great. Another piece, small piece of 2x4 is going to help with the final assembly of this. Whole bunch of screws. If you have a finishing nailer, it'll help you with the assembly process, but it's by no means required. Now, I make this out of plywood because I want to put it outside and kind of leave it out there for a while. I don't really want to worry about it if it rains or whatever. And granted, this wood will swell and will start to deteriorate over time, but there's not a lot of rain where I'm at, so I'm not really worried about it. If I was and I wanted this heavy-duty box, you might see about buying a piece of pressure-treated plywood instead of using just whatever's around. What you see in the front here is basically like an oversized clipboard that I made, and it was a clipboard at one time. I bought one of these, except this one's got a plastic back. They usually come with like a fiber board like this. I like this low profile style of clip, so I just grabbed a couple of them and drilled the rivets out, so I have just the clip left. Here it is. Here's the one I'll be using today. So you're left with this, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to put up dimensions for every piece of wood on here, and I'm also going to show you some of the techniques I use, like cutting this little slot in so I can just slide this in and out. Now once this is full of rubber mulch, if I do this, I'll make an absolute mess. But it does kind of make it nice for replacing this because you're going to shoot the heck out of this. Here's another nice add-on feature is putting a handle on top of this box. You can usually find these for about $1 or $2 at the hardware store. So I think it makes it nice because this rubber mulch isn't light, and then you add all this plywood. It's just a nice little added feature. So one of the things I looked at when I designed this box was being able to print out my own targets and use them and not have to worry about hitting the framework of the box, the hidden framework like this board back here. I didn't want to hit that. I wanted enough room for settling of the rubber mulch, so I didn't want to have to shoot too high, and I just thought of a couple of different things like that. And then every once in a while it's a good idea to clean out your rubber mulch, so you want to get in here. I could unscrew it, but the thing is, I'm going to shoot the heck out of this piece of wood, this piece of fiberboard. So I wanted an easily replaceable fiberboard. So basically I cut a channel right here so I can just make a new board, screw on the clip, and slap it in place. Another trick I do is I'll cover this shooting area with duct tape, and as I shoot it, the fiberboard will kind of blow apart into pieces and larger chunks, but the duct tape kind of stays together and only gets like a hole in it. And I'll come back and I'll just duct tape over this again, and then I'll shoot it a whole bunch of times and I'll duct tape over it again, and I'll duct tape over it again and again and again until it gets to be more duct tape than fiberboard. That's usually when I swap out my my clipboard. But if you don't do that, if you don't have some kind of system for doing that, then your rubber mulch pieces, as your holes get bigger, your rubber mulch is going to start to kind of bleed out a little bit. So guys, as I said, this is way overkill. This is super heavy duty. You can totally buy some rubber mulch, stick it in a cardboard box, and throw it out in the yard and be done. And maybe even wrap that in duct tape and just be done. And there's your shop box. That'll work. There's nothing wrong with that. I just wanted something a little more heavy duty. First thing I'm going to look at is the clipboard. Now this is MDF. It's cheap. It's 1/4 inch thick MDF, and you can get like a 4 foot by 2 foot piece. And my dimensions here are 11 inches by 13 and a half. That should do well for you. You may have to trim that a little bit depending on if your box comes out a little off, or you change dimensions somehow. You may have to just change that around. Also, the way I installed this clip was I just drilled out the 2 rivets that were in here, yanked this thing off the clipboard, and then I just screwed it in place on this. From the top down, it is 2 inches. Maybe shy a little bit, but go right about 2 inches should do you well for these 2 holes, and then it's just centered. Inside the box, you can see I've got this channel cut out. It's a little bit bigger than a 1/4 inch. If you go exact with a 1/4 inch, this piece is going to be a pain in the butt to slip in and out. So it's just like, I don't know, a 32nd bigger or something like that. It's just a little bit larger than a 1/4 inch. I've also got 2 slices here in this top piece of wood. What that's for is these 2 screws. When I slide this down, they would hit the top board if I didn't have those 2 slices in there. So just fits right through. One more thing, guys, don't forget hearing protection and eye protection. I wouldn't want you guys to hurt yourself. Okay guys, for this next part, you're going to be cutting the channel for the clipboard to fit in. So it's good to have that homemade clipboard, and then you want your sides. You're going to be cutting this along the long edge of the sides and the long edge of the bottom. So you want to make sure to pick which side of your sides is going to be the outside and the inside of the box. I've got a smooth textured side and I've got a rough textured side. For my purposes, I'm going to put the smooth on the outside. So I've got both sides laid out nice. I'm going to start this channel 1 inch from the front face, the front edge. Technically, I don't have to draw this line. It just kind of keeps everything in line to where I know that I'm cutting in the right spot, and I'm cutting on the right side. As I said, here's the bottom. I picked the front edge of my bottom piece, and we'll draw a line there. Doesn't have to be clean, doesn't have to be neat. You're going to cut it off anyway. What this does is, this is the back of that gap, and the gap is going to be slightly more than a 1/4 inch thick. Anyway, big dark line there. This is going to slide right into that. And the reason I put it in the bottom is to stop the bottom of this board from, sliding around, and maybe it comes loose, it starts to work its way up, and next thing you know, you got rubber mulch coming out the bottom of your box. So depending on the wood you're using, if you're using a little bit thicker wood, you may have to crunch some numbers in order to make this work right. I would start, since this is wood and you can't really add wood, if you're not sure of your dimensions, start a little bit shallow on this cut and then work it until it fits how you want it to fit. That's there, and you just set 1 inch. guys, I've got one of these push pad, and this is so that when I make this cut, my fingers aren't in the way, and I can slide right over that. Please do not do this. It just sends chills down my spine. Don't do it. It's not good practice. Find something that you can put on top of there, or if you have absolutely nothing, you know, maybe, I don't know, grab another piece of wood, put on top of it. Just something to separate your hand a little bit, and then just come to the outside, and then, you know, maybe put both of them. Another thing you could do is use your miter. You put this in here, put your cut in here. If you don't have, like I said, the push block, you use a piece of wood, and then you can push everything through nice. Once you get done this first cut, all you're going to do is move the fence a little bit closer to make the next cut and take out the next little section. You're doing blade by blade until you reach just a hair over a 1/4 inch thick. Pieces cut. I also cut some 2x4 up. These are 1 inch thick by 1.5 inches. And the reason I did that was just to give me something to screw into. I'll put these in each corner of the box on the inside, and it's just something for the screws to grab during assembly. So I'm going to do a mock fit, make sure everything works. You want to do this, guys, because if you don't and something doesn't fit, you could be in the middle of assembly when you finally find it out. And my top should come in right behind this board, which it does. And I also cut it for just a little bit of overlap on the sides, and that's just, you know, like I said, it's going to be outside, so there might be rain or something. It kind of gives that rain, instead of running down the sides, hopefully it'll just drip off. I could have made it bigger, but this is enough. It's a shop box. That's all. I've still got a little more work to do on the top because I want to mount the handle in the center, and I also want to make room for those 2 screws later on. During assembly, guys, it helps to have this your clipboard in place. It helps to hold everything, and then it gives you also a feedback right away on if it's too tight. You don't want to push these two together because then it's going to be really hard to slip this in and out. Well, guys, I had a little bit of a fit issue during assembly, so I had to take kind of half of it apart and then go through the process of putting it back together again. And the reason was this wasn't sliding up and down. So when you, especially when you get the sides up and they made up to the bottom, you want to check to make sure this is able to slide. And then when you put the top in, you have this ability to fix a little bit of drag if there's too much. You know, your sides are kicked in or just one side, you can pull it and then screw it in place. Another thing is, since I'm only dealing with inch thick wood on the inside here, I'm going to pre-drill my holes all the way around, and then assembly will basically be, for the most part, done, at least in the box. Okay, guys, now that I've got it this far, one thing I'm going to do is, with the holes drilled out for the clip and the clip installed, with whatever screws you're using, you want to put that in until it hits the top board, where the top board sits. Then grab a pencil and mark your screws here, so you know exactly how much board to cut off of it. I did take my top loose after assembly. Now that I've got my screw holes in, everything should go right back to the place where it was. Put that aside. The other thing I'm going to do is start to find center on my top. Once I find my center, I can start to locate my handle for drilling out the holes for it. Before I install this handle, I'm going to go ahead and cut out where I marked for the screws. So I've got my two little slots cut in here. You can do this at the table saw or with the miter, or you can do it if you have a bandsaw, something like that. Got those two slots in, and now you should be ready to install this top for the final time. So guys, once you get your box all built for the last time, grab your rubber mulch and dump it on in. This bag is 8 cubic feet of rubber mulch. Now you can buy rubber mulch in shreds and you can buy it in chunks. Personally, I like the chunks better. It gives your pellets something to hit and not something to kind of slide against. Either one's going to work though. If all you can get is shreds, go ahead and get it. Tack it down nice. One thing I would suggest doing is give it a shake. I really want it to settle in there a little bit and just be tight. And one thing I would caution you guys on is if you end up shooting close to the top up here, you have a chance to not only hit the top board, but you also risk having all this mulch settle, and you're going to go straight through, and you may come out the back end of the box. So I would really hesitate. I would really try to stay away from shooting anywhere high on this box. It doesn't settle much. It's only probably going to be 1/4 inch or maybe 1/2 inch at the most, but it's just going to get a little bit thinner at the top there. And there you go, guys. Shop box is built, ready to go out to the field and get all shot up. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. As always, happy shooting. Thanks for watching.